Greetings, my name is Slight, and welcome to an Overexplain on Vanessa. We are going to be playing a pretty standard build this game, just pushing to try to get an easy 10 wins, and really focusing on how we can beat Max, who are currently pretty strong in the meta, although they've gotten quite a bit of nerfs. But the most recent patch actually introduced quite a few buffs to them in specific architectures, mostly around their weapons. And we have been seeing quite a bit of those actually crop up, and they've been quite strong. So, in the past, I think choosing... Sorry, I have a hair in my mouth. Choosing the gold skill here has probably been the best and most consistent choice, and I do think that still tends to be true for Vanessa. One of the two main ways that we can beat out Max in the game of Bazaar as it currently is by either really pushing burn, right? Because Mac does not have any shield, which means he's far more susceptible to burn than, let's say, Pygmalion or Dooley or even Vanessa would be. That being said, he's also relatively susceptible to a lot of burst damage, right? If you're able to apply a consistent high amount of damage, that's really hard for a Mac to deal with in the early game, and so getting something like weapon damage is a really good gold tier to start with. Now, this enchanted item has actually gotten quite a bit better. This is something that can be good. The new bronze event, Mandala, actually allows us to choose an enchanted item based on the enchantment type rather than like the whole package. And so if I want something that's a fire enchantment, and that's really strong for me, I can take that on my enchanted item, and then I'll probably get a chance to re-roll it almost every single day. So all that being said, gold is also nothing to scoff at, but I just wanted to call out that enchanted item I think is much better positioned than it was before Mandala existed. That being said, we're still going to pick the gold tier skill here. Now, I think I'd rather, in general, have damage. These Final Flame and Immolating Spark actually got nerfed recently, but that'll still end up being the pick here. And I'll try to think if there's a reason to take one or the other. There probably is, I'm just not necessarily aware of it, and it's probably a niche case. That being said, we don't take rear shielding right now, mostly because on Vanessa, we really don't have the option in the mid and late game to really play for a shield build. I mean, it's not always the case, right? You can get a turtle shell and some pearls and really do a lot of shielding and poisoning, right? But with the amount of regen and heal Mac tends to have, on average, it tends to be really tough to win with that particular strategy. So we're going to burn him out, and I think I would like to put this on the left. I can't think of a reason to do one or the other. I'm going to click rightmost, and then we will see if that actually manifests in any outcome that I like or dislike. Perfect. So we can get an item. Go to Jungle Ruins or Quixel. Jungle Ruins here is not a bad choice because we get a random silver item, but it's incredibly important that I enter into the next fight, into the first fight, with the ability to beat something like the Viper or the Fanged Inglet. And the Fanged Inglet's a guaranteed win, but more so the Viper, because I want a chance at getting a Fang, especially a Poisoned Fang, is especially good on Vanessa. So I do need to go to Quixel here because I need to get an item on my board that can help me win that fight. That turns out to be quite important. So there's two ways I could play this. I could just go ahead and take all three of these. I would get some decent seashell shielding and some decent healing. The tough thing here, though, is that that's not necessarily going to save me from the Viper. Because the Viper kills me in about 25 seconds. So, sure, let's say I heal. Let's say I stave off most of the physical damage. The poison is the real problem, right? And this is a 7-second cooldown, which is not very consistent, or not happening with very much consistency. And so... this will go off at 28 seconds and 21 seconds, which does mean I might be able to make it through the fight, because those are good. Those are pretty good timings. Like at 21, I'll probably be needing a heal, and at 28, that'll be right before the sandstorm kicks in. But that's not necessarily enough to deal with the stacking poison damage that I'm going to be fighting against. So I think most people here would probably be fine taking these, but I'm actually considering re-rolling to get a better opportunity to go into the first fight. In general, though, seashell and seaweed are quite decent. They're nothing to scoff at. But by taking them, I'm also saying that I'm not going to the Viper because I think it's a little close. I could probably calculate it out, but I don't know if it feels like it's worth it. So, all that being said, let's click these three things. Seashell is really nice in the early game. That 30 shield tends to be pretty good. And we aren't punished too bad. We do have the option for the Fanged Inglet, but the opportunity to get a lighter here from Pyro is really too good to pass up, so we have to click here. I need to activate this gold skill that I have as soon as possible. That's really kind of just all the thinking that there is there. And I'll pause this so you don't have to watch. Alright, and one thing that I will be trying to do during this run is making sure to click recap on every fight, just so that while you're following along, sure, I might have a sense of the damage output that I'm doing, but I think it's really important that you're able to see that as well. So, immediately forgot. But you know what? Luckily, that one was the least impactful of them all, so not the worst thing. So we could take a scrap to get more shield on Seashell. We could take Strange Mushroom, which gives us either a neutral item or 4 gold. But the opportunity here to get a Pop Snappers or a lighter is quite high for Andy, so we have to take that. Again, really our main goal here is to activate Final Flame as soon as we can, to the point that it is better to re-roll here with the opportunity to find something than it is to take any of these items. We already made one hedge, right, with these. I am hard-pressed to do it again. Unfortunately, we don't get anything that we're looking for, but I'll go ahead and take this powder flask just because it might end up being useful as the game goes on. So, go ahead with that. And we do get a tiny furry monster here. I actually don't have a friend, food, or toy that I could use to activate this tiny furry monster. And I don't have much money that I could use going to Kina, but I would be willing to sell quite a few things on my board if it meant getting a lighter. So the option for me is, do I take a silver tier loot from Tiny Furry Monster, 3 gold from Spare Change, or Kina with the opportunity to activate my Final Flame? I think it's really important to stay very aggressive in the early game as Vanessa, and to really push your luck to the limits on the things that's actually going to win you this next fight. Taking the silver loot or the 3 spare change, both of these end up not giving us an opportunity to set ourselves up for success for this next fight. But Kina, if there's a lighter on this board, if there's a Pop Snappers, we're in a much better position. And so Kina has to be the choice. And we are rewarded for our efforts in more ways than one. This is actually very nice for us. I want this Clamora as well. Frankly, I'd like the Pearl as well. So what's the best way to go about this? I have a total of 6, which means I could conceivably purchase everything if I sold everything, but that's not really going to happen. So first thing, I need to sell 2 items, and I'm going to sell the powder flask and the seaweed. That means I can take the lighter, then I can sell the cinders to add more burn to the lighter, and then I can actually buy the Clamora here. I could also consider buying this Pearl. It's actually quite strong, all things considered, because it just is going to be 10 more shield on the seashell and shield myself. Clamora here is actually more of a long-term pick. It's very good, do not get me wrong. But again, I think I need to play for now. And so to do that, to set myself up most successfully, I'm going to take the Pearl instead. Alright, so by thinking about and by trying to push us for the best position in this first fight. I think I've managed to build a board here that's relatively successful. It's certainly not the best thing that you can have on day one, but I think we've set ourselves up to probably win 70 to 70, maybe 80% of fights that we might run into. And I do think that we will come out successful against this person. I think we have a little too much shield, and as long as he doesn't get a lot of slows here on our lighter, I think we end up doing quite a bit more damage than he does. Success. All right. Recap. 15 shield from the catfish. I love how good catfish is now. A turbo powder flask. Ah, interesting. It would be interesting if this hasted the item that it was reloading instead. It would be a better enchantment. Would it be too good? I don't know. Tough to say. All right, so here we are. Start of day 2. We've got 5 gold in the bank. We've got a decent little board coming along. One region is definitely not worth an entire hour of time. I could either take a random skill or a free large item, or I could go to Midsworth here. I do have 5 gold, which is not quite a lot. And Midsworth has an expensive reroll. So I actually think going to Lost Crate here is better. I don't think I see anything wrong with going for skill, but I'd rather go medium item. This gives us an item we can look at, which is one that we are very happy to get here. This is a perfectly good item, and opens up quite a bit of options for us as we go forward. And if we want to sell it, we just gain 4 gold, which is quite nice. Interesting here to consider frontal shielding. It's better now at bronze, right? We're getting 50% of the benefit at 1/3 of the rarity. And it's very strong. And I get to save 2 gold. I'll save 2 gold and take a strong skill now, as opposed to feeling the need to re-roll for something that's better. So now we're offered the Jungle Ruins, which we could get a free silver item here, or we could look at weapons, or we get a free small weapon. With a katana on the board, katana's really good if you can sort of figure out a way to scale its damage. It does a lot of attacks, but low damage, which is a great place for the item to be. I love that they changed this back to 2 seconds. That being said, what is the best direction for us? Our one thing that comes to mind is there's some aquatic weapons that actually might be better for us because they're going to improve our pearl and seashell synergy here. But the question that I have, is it better just to take a free silver item? Because right now I'm more interested in non-weapon items, focusing on letting lighter do a lot of my damage. So right now I love this katana, and I think it very well may end up in what our build happens to be, but I don't want to go all in on Aila yet. So I'm going to click Jungle Ruins here, and I'm going to take the free small silver item, and that's a perfectly fine one. Something that I would like to save for when I have many weapons that I can cash the sell activation on. With this scaling burn and the fact that we've got plenty of shield, Rogue Scrapper is easy peasy for us. Will not be an issue at all. One thing to call out here is that 7 burn is a critical amount of burn, because at that point your burn is actually scaling, and this makes sense because every half second burn ticks and is reduced by 1. So in 6 seconds you'll or in 3 seconds, you'll lose 6 burn. So, if you have 7, that's when that burn kind of just scales up and gets to a point where it does more and more and more damage. Ooh, very nice. Rust is extremely good. Very happy with that. Alright, so we could take the Sharpening Stone here and upgrade our katana's damage. or we could click into JJ and see what he has to offer. All right, I'm back. So we could add damage to Katana here. We could take 4 gold at a neutral item, or we could click JJ and see some items. I technically do have 11 gold. And while Rust has been good, Frontal Shielding's added something. I don't think I've gotten too much stronger today. And one thing to keep in mind is I'd like to be able to level up. For me to do that, though, I would need a friend, a toy, or food, of which I have none. And so I do think it's actually worth it here to click JJ, just in case we get an opportunity to take a friend. That may actually matter quite a lot. This upgrade is really not worth it. 5 damage is only a 2.5 damage per second increase, which is really not what I'm looking for here. You know, I could see this being okay later in the game, but the scaling's so low that the katana is going to be good at 10 if it's going to be good at 15. So there's no real reason to spend $8 there. This is pretty good, though. Ambergris is a perfectly fine item to be getting. Shark Claws is very good with katana. And the Cutlass isn't too bad, but not quite as good. So I think we definitely take Ambergris and Shark Claws. Because Shark Claws aquatic, it'll actually give us a kickback here from Ambergris. I don't want to take Cutlass right now, though. I just don't have anything that's quite using that. That being said, you know, I didn't really get a friend, which is what I was hoping for. So we'll see how this next day turns out. We get a friend, mandala, or non-weapon items. I'm not going to level before the next fight. And now the question is, what is the best way for me to do damage? This is probably not as good as this, just because, well, it is slow right at the start of the fight, which ends up kind of mattering. Unfortunately, we don't get our level. That happens to be a big deal. And the question is it better to throw Shark Claws in or to keep our sort of defensive strategy we have? I think the defensive strategy is better, and I actually think Shark Claws themselves are going to be a little bit better. The baseline damage per second is half, if not actually more. It's 75% worse, but the total damage that we'll do is, this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, which is 20 plus 50, right? 60, 120 plus 30. 150 total damage, whereas this is 150 total damage. So it's actually the same. So never mind. We'll put this on. And we'll go ahead and use lifting gloves. This will give us kind of the best chance that we can, because adding 6 damage to this katana is quite meaningful. That gives us 3. And I'm just going to click here to take a friend. Not a good one, but one nonetheless. And that is slightly better than Clamora on average. Clamora will use itself 4 times. This will also use itself 4 times. But Clamora starts, right? 8 times 4 is 32. So Clamora is actually better. All right. Canadian Kaiju did win his first fight. Let's see if we can keep him on 1 win as far as we're concerned. We do have the sort of double slow. He has defense grid and rust, and it looks like he's putting up some good numbers here with quite a bit of haste, quite a bit of poison that he'll be applying. But I do think that we end up applying quite a bit of burn. The shielding we have is actually not helping us at all, so that's a bit unfortunate. that we're playing against a build that actually doesn't care at all about our shielding. What can you do? Yeah. You know, if this was the burn one, we would be much better positioned in this fight. But unfortunately, the yellow mantis hasting that he was able to do, as well as this induction Aegis, actually was a lot of shielding that made it a lot harder for us to push through that damage. Unfortunate. So we've got a bronze tier item, 2 gold, and a bronze tier loot, or a bronze tier ammo item. I think right here it's just pretty straightforward. Let's click the loot. It could be damage, it could be burn, it could be shield, all of which would tend to be pretty good for what we have on the board right now. Unfortunately, we got poison, but so it goes. So it goes. So we can get Shark Claws on, which is actually going to make our seashell a little bit better. And it's going to scale up our katana. And I think the best play here, by far, is just to get that free upgrade on Shark Claws here. The fact that this we can improve the scaling on this is really impactful. So very happy to be able to do that. We've got 10 gold. Getting an upgrade on Clamor would be good. I'd take an upgrade on these as well. It's very nice to have the Pearl with the Shark Claws for now, because that actually does have some synergy, which is not usually the case with weapons. A haste item's not bad. There's quite a few good haste items that I wouldn't mind taking. A random skill is not too bad, but nothing inspiring. And Andy does have a pretty good chance of giving us something we want. Upgrades on pretty much all of this would be pretty good. I'd probably maybe one. I wouldn't mind taking like one upgrade on lighter, but beyond that, it's not worth the money. And there's a lot of aquatic items that are small, which makes our ambergris more impactful. So yep, happy to take this. Pretty happy to take this jellyfish too. I think I prefer that to what I had going on before, and we'll give that some extra poison. I don't think a reroll here is really necessary, so I think we'll just move forward with this. Alright, perfect. We, with all the scaling damage and this burn, have a really easy time with eccentric Etherite. Alright, and 20 damage on Katana here actually turns out to be quite a lot. One of the things we could really benefit from is haste at this point, but this is some really nice scaling from us. You know, and we have kind of just enough sustain. That's actually not too bad. Alright, we are guaranteed our level up. Why? Because I have 2 circles here in experience, and I have 2 circles left on the day. And we get a lucky Nufu. Let's go here. Perfectly happy with... Ooh, Gunner's actually quite nice too. But I think right-handed here is really hard to beat. Very nice for us. We throw that here on the right side, and that works out great for us. This barbed wire will definitely be something we could field, which is really nice. And I actually kind of like taking the chocolate bars here. That 50 health actually is quite meaningful. It's you know, an 1/8 or you know, something like a 9th or a 10th of our health increased, which is pretty sizable. I could go to medium items, but I think on average I'm actually going to get a bigger benefit on having some health here. So going from 500 to 550 to 600, that feels pretty nice. All right, perfect. And our board is going to be something like this. Excuse me. With this like this, so the katana's actually getting the right-handed, and we've got all this sort of shield happening here. As far as what I upgrade bronze tier, my 2 options are either Seashell or Clamora, and let me check something. Seashell goes to 15, so this would go from 50 to 75 every 6 seconds. It's pretty sizable increase. I don't think these would be the ones I would increase. Mostly because I just want the biggest impact now. Maybe Clamora is the way to go. Bronze tier skills also could be pretty good for me. Just because there's nothing that's like super impactful to upgrade besides maybe Clamora. You know what? Let's stick with the plan. We know Clamora is good. Let's just get an upgrade on that. And if we have some opportunity to increase this slow duration on Clamora, it might actually be pretty impactful. So I feel pretty well positioned into this next fight. We scale nicely. We start off with quite a lot of slows, which is going to buy us time, and we've got some shielding. So as long as this is not another like majorly poison-centric build, we should be pretty good. Looks like he is doing a fair amount of poisoning, but mostly the poison charges he's going to get are from Black Spider here, which is not nearly enough. Now, I don't think that we had any crits there, so a lot of our damage just coming from Katana, just doing a lot of damage, and then the scaling from Shark Claws. Note that just because you add damage to Shark Claws does not increase the impact of its effect, right? Just because it deals 20 and you gain 20 does not mean if you increase the damage on Shark Claws that it actually is going to increase the weapon damage gain of Shark Claws. Alright, we are back. And we stomped us duly. Let's get out of here. Onward. Got a lot of run left to play. Alright, I feel pretty nice about Nautica. I really don't want a small friend. I've already got a friend, Mandala. I have nothing that's enchanted that I wish was something else. And I know I'm going to get a kickback from any aquatic items I buy for my ambergris. So very happy to go here. Illusory is nothing I'm excited about. Not a big use of my money. Dive weights, on the other hand, can be really strong. And I have the amount of, like, a good amount of aquatic items so that I could actually field it. That being said, it's not exactly clear what I would trade. You know, maybe I would take out Barbed Wire, but Barbed Wire is actually quite good for what I'm doing right now. So it's a little unique, right? Because like, is this is good to have, but is it better than what I'm doing? It is not. But I do think it's worth having, so we'll click it for now. This fits into a lot of different builds. You know, there's haste aquatic builds. There's time where you can use the ammo on this to trigger something like a ballista. And we currently don't have much haste going on as far as, you know, outside of jellyfish. So we'll take it. Reroll for 4 is a little too much considering how much money we have, so we'll go on our merry way. And the way to think about those rerolls, right, is I'm going into the next day. I want the opportunity to look at more items, right? Now, this one's pretty clear, right? Because if I spend 4, I'm only have $1 left, and I'm going to have to sell something to buy something. But now I'm actually have enough where I could buy something at Aila here, and it would not be totally out of the question. And frankly, because we have this damage scaling on Shark Claws, I'm very happy to see Aila here. There's quite a few items that I would be perfectly happy to take. Jete is not something that I think we should be fielding right now. A little too, not quite enough slow on our board for this to be worth it. But Rifle is also not really that very good, and Mantis Shrimp is not scaling enough to be worth it. But this rerolls a lot cheaper, so let's click this. Very interesting. Okay, these are some actual items. 12. So luckily we have this ambergris here because that's going to give us a lot of ability to actually purchase. So we got 6, 7. I'd like to keep this. I'm looking at this cannonade here as a very powerful tool for us. Clamora I'd like to keep. Lighter I'd like to keep. This little package here could probably go away. Maybe something like this. Maybe it's this jellyfish that I don't need, right? And then what am I doing with these, right? And I think I want this back on the board, right? So then this is out. So this is back on the board. That's cannonade there. And then at that point, I'm really not gaining much from Pearl either. So Clamora is back on the board. And then we're just using this as like a 5-second, deal some damage with cannonade. It's not too bad. So I feel pretty good about that. Let me just make sure there's nothing I want to buy on Ambergris first. Grenade's very interesting. Very strong. A little bit of ammo on this would go a long way in the build that we have right in front of us right now. So then the next question is, do I want that instead of a Clamora? Right? And so now I'm looking at 16. So I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus 6 is 15. And I need 16. Do that one more time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 plus 6 is 15. I am 1 short. 1 short of my dreams. And so the question is, which is more likely to be useful? Dive weights or Clamora? And I think we will go with Clamora, on average, being less useful. And let's do it. We'll buy this, and we'll buy this, and there's a lot of red text on this board, which, if you're a Mac player, should probably scare you. So, now what is the best choice? A Hexa is good because it gives me 3 experience. That being said, I know I have 1, 2, 3 experience left in the day. 1, 2, 3 experience, which means as long as I gain 2 experience from one of these 2 fights, I will level up. But ideally, I want to be ahead of the curve. So the real question is there any option that is really particularly good for me? The Whirling Dervish here, or Outland's Dervish, does have Keen Eye, which would be decent for us. It would start giving us some crit, which we're going to need. Blood Reef Raider has Invul Potion, which is not great for us, but he also has a Silver Revolver, which would be pretty good and would be better and preferable to Barbed Wire here. But in general, I think I'll value 1 gold and 1 experience higher, so we'll go ahead and click a Hexa here. And this gives us a better indication of where our build is at. Pretty good. It's pretty aggro. Feel pretty good about that. The burning here ends up doing quite a lot of damage. 340 from Cannonade, more than our Katana. Pretty sick to see that. One thing to note here is that because Grenade is to the left of Shark Claws and they have the exact same cooldown, the Shark Claws will resolve first, meaning that if the order was reversed, this Grenade would have done 100 damage. That is important to know and was an intentional choice on my part to put these 5-second cooldowns to the left of Shark Claws, and it's good for you to know exactly how that works. Alright, hopefully we take a Solar Farm or a Crypto, maybe a Nitro. Not that. It's not what I wanted. Ah, the good old Aerodrome. Aerodrome can be extremely good. You can get stuff that you normally couldn't get on day 4 here at the Aerodrome. So what are my other options? Mattel or 4 gold? So the question is it worth rolling for an enchantment on Aerodrome just at the opportunity? It is free to click once. So do I want 4 gold or... I don't think we want to go to Mattel. We just don't quite have the money to field it. We could get 1 item, but we can't really shop. You know what I'm saying? 4 gold's not bad, but I think I'd like to go to Aerodrome because there's always an opportunity this makes our build absolutely cracked. And it doesn't cost us much to do that. Colt could be very strong for us. There's quite a few small ammo items like the revolver that I would be perfectly happy getting, as well as maybe even an upgraded grenade here. Sure, I think that's better than the options we had, and it didn't cost us anything to look at them. That being said, I don't think I want any of these items. There's a case to be made for musket here, but I don't think it's a good enough case. So, thank you very much, Colt, for letting me see these items. They were there was a better chance of it being better than what I was already looking at, but I'm not going to buy them. All right, Argenta's up next. My main call out with Argenta is don't be picky. If it's good enough. Gunner is extremely good, so perfectly happy to take that. We don't even need to look at the other ones. All right, so we can get 5 regen. We can work at the docks, or we could get a health or shield item. One of the main things that you're looking for in the health or shield item is like a bronze cove. That would be very good for us at this point of the game because it would really boost our economy. At a time when our economy is going to start becoming more and more important. So the other option is you can go to the docks. We could just roll a random weapon. We could roll a random tool. Maybe some of those would be good. Maybe they wouldn't be. At this point, my board feels like it's slightly ahead of curve, especially now that I have 2 grenades. I feel like that's added a lot of punch to what I'm up to. I am going to... I think it's worthwhile to think about what's most likely to improve your position, because you need to stay ahead of the curve. This could be better, you know, maybe 1 in 5 times, but every time the docks is going to help me move forward, and let's just take a weapon and see what we get. That's not a good one, but you know what? We can sell it. All right. Would love to see a Mak instead of a Vanessa here. This Vanessa has yet to lose, so let's see if our build can actually put up a fight. Cannonade as well. Oh, and a full board of tiny items, including an Uzi. That's going to be pretty hard for me to beat. Maybe if we get some lucky crits, but he's going to be doing a lot more stuff. No crit there on our grenade, so I don't think we're going to be able to win here. And it looks like he got a crit there. Yeah. Very strong build from him. He's kind of doing exactly what we're doing, but ours will peak to a higher degree and is better against a higher health opponent. But his is just very aggressive. And honestly, if I could have a board like that, I would absolutely have one. That would be wonderful. All right, so here we are. We've got $12 to our name. Mandala. Small non-weapon item, both not quite what we're looking for. Let's click talks and see what he's got. Interesting. We aren't really doing very much hasting. That being said, there is a case to be made for dive weights coming onto the board now, and it needs to go next to Shark Claws, so it gets its -1 cooldown, but I think that's the only aquatic item I have. That could make Javelin a little bit better, but it's still not good enough. And so I think we'll skip here. All right, we've got another docks. We could borrow, which is not good. You know, here I would lose 1 income and gain 6 gold. But, you know, just if I get to 10 wins... That is 8 days. So overall, it's a loss in money. And I don't need the money right now. Aquatic items, huh? Dive weights would be pretty good. I could take the docks and continue to extend my economic lead, but I think there's a good chance we get something here at Nautica. Interesting. I don't think this is what we want. Beach Ball is certainly like kind of an interesting thing here with Shark Claws, but I don't think it's quite good enough. All right. Mod Squad, Hakurvian Rocket Trooper, and Sabretooth. Mod Squad is definitely the best for money and experience, but I do know that I'm going to level up no matter what, and Hakurvian Rocket Trooper is one of the best ones that you can get for ammo-related synergies. So usually when I'm playing a weapon build, if I have any ammo items, I'm usually going here. Not only that, it's got a Shadowed Cloak, which is really strong with Katana, Rocket Boots, Eagle Talisman, Gunpowder, Eagle Eye, and Flashy Reload. There's really only 2 duds on the entire enemy, which makes him very much worthwhile to go to. Sure, I can take that. And I think that's probably best served on our... Well... Is it Katana or probably Cannonade here? Probably this. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, sweet. Now, one thing I noticed was that I needed to stay alive in that last fight, and I wasn't really able to. Instead of going to Kina or taking a recycling center, I actually think going to the... I have a decent amount of damage. I just need to survive a little longer. So I'm actually going to drop 10 bucks on health here. I just want to be as tanky as I can be. I'm not going to sell them yet, just in case we find a Barcoon, but that's what I'm up to. Here, I just want to keep it nice and simple. Let's take a loot item. That could be something useful. Again, we get extract, unfortunately. And we do get an opportunity to upgrade a bronze item, but that doesn't really impact us, and lighter's not worth upgrading because it's only 1 extra burn. A small weapon's not very good, but happy to see Colt here. There's quite a few things that we could get, like these dive weights here, that would make a big difference in the effectiveness of our build. I now know that I'm not going to see a Barcoon, so I'm just going to sell all this for the 150 health, and I'll keep this extract for now, just because there's not a reason to sell it. Throwing knives is interesting, but it's not... Is it better than the lighter? That's the real question, and I don't think that it is. It might be in the long term, though, so I think for now I will click it. Just at the opportunity that I may have to use it later. But do I want... Do I want a bolus? No, and I don't think I want to reroll either. I don't think there's any rush. I think I'm in a fine spot. The health I gained is going to be pretty helpful. This haste that I have now should be pretty good and should help me finish off the fight. And let's see if we can put up a fight against this dually. Would love to be seeing some more Maks. Unfortunately, we are not seeing too many of them. It looks like it's Dualtron o'clock. Emergency burn. Wow, a silver one. And quite a bit of burning. Haste 4 items for 2 seconds is pretty nuts. We're going to get our haste now. And yeah, we've just done way too much damage to him at this point. And he hasn't even really made a dent in us. Nice. Love to see that. Alright, let's click the recap. So, the main damage that he had was Fire Potion there. His Yellow Mantis was going off pretty good, but we were able to put really good numbers up with Cannonade here. This went off 4 times, and it looks like it crit twice of those 4 times, so that's pretty lucky. Yeah. Is that true? Let's see. I wasn't watching that. I was mostly looking at his items. And he does have the same amount of health as us, so yeah, there's 1 crit there. Oh, no, it was just 1 crit, and the damage increase there from Shark Claws was what really did the rest. Sweet. So, I would say at this point, our lighter is starting to be less impactful, and I am looking to get rid of it. We are given the very nice option of Mountain Pass here. We don't want anything from Kebs, and 5 gold isn't quite worth it, especially because I can click here and get 5 gold anyway, or I can get some actual experience. But we're going to risk it on the biscuit, and we're going to fight the Viper Tyrant. We're well positioned to kill this little snake. We would love a Toxic Fang. Maybe a Basilisk Fang. Not terrible. Alright, not doing too bad. The big thing here is another weapon here, and maybe another way to solve this grenade problem with ammo is going to be really impactful to the long-term impact that Cannonade has in every fight. So again, I'm going to hold off selling until I know for sure that I'm not going to run into something that I'd prefer. like a Barcoon where I could sell my small items for extra money. Especially on Vanessa, it's very important that we make sure to manage our rather paltry economy as best we can. So, very important. Cool fish. Bam. That being said, there's quite a few medium items. Like, I wouldn't mind. One thing that comes to mind is a shark claws here. Would be pretty sweet. Is that it, though? Is that the only thing that I really want? I'm not sure. Maybe it's better here to just take, to extend the current advantage we have. Sell 2 items. Take some chocolate bars and stay very healthy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm going to sell my extract and my gland here. And I'm going to click chocolate contest. Now, do I want to spend 10? Seems a little too expensive. I think we'll just go for the 5 bronze. I want to keep my money now that I'm more likely to see a gold item. I don't want to be out of money at this point. Trash Golem's good because he has a good ammo skill that could be pretty impactful for us. Infernal, we might be able to kill. Infernal's tough, but we are pretty fast. How much health does he have? The problem is we kind of run out of steam. Not that one. 1,000, I think we run a little bit too much out of steam for the Infernal. It would be really close, and I really don't want it to be that close. I can't afford losing a fight, so we're going to click Trash Golem here. Much more reasonable fight for us. Grape Shot would be good. I would take Junkyard Catapult just to sell it, as well as Powder Keg. Powder Keg could actually make it on our board. This is gone. That is not what I was looking for, but I do love seeing this nice amount of health. So now the question is, what do I upgrade? Cannonade's a good upgrade. Shark Claws is also a good upgrade. I definitely don't want to upgrade Katana because it's only $5 in the bank. I think Cannonade's the best payoff for us. It's a lot of damage. And I think it goes up, 100 damage. So, yeah, that's really sweet for us. Nice. I'm doing really good on money here. Kina is, I'm okay to skip. Don't feel too much like I have to go to Kina. So happy to take the bounty hunters here. More gold and experience is great. It's exactly the kind of stuff I'm looking for. I'd love a wanted poster. I'd take a flashbang. I'd take a revolver. I don't want a cutlass. And ambush is very good. Yeah, he's got this thrown net, which happens to be like a good counter for like an all-weapon build. Cool, what you gonna give me? Sweet. Man, that is really good. Love to see that. Okay. So, even if I take 1 additional experience, I need 3 before I level up, and I'm only going to get 1 from the rest of the day, so that doesn't actually level. If I was going to level, I would take this over Nufu. It's that important. But with Nufu showing up and more than $20 in the bank, I'm excited for this. And I am perfectly happy taking Gunner level up. It's really hard to beat that. Getting extra ammo on these items really sets me up to be extremely flexible as the game goes on, and allows me to put something like throwing knives out, which, even though I don't have a lot of crit going on, is just a fast item that I can use to get even more triggers of cannonade. Because at this point, lighter's not really doing that much for me. And plasma grenade is a little too slow. So, perfectly happy with this. Interesting that this is still at 5. Am I missing something? I thought this was already at 5 times cool. Oh, maybe it's bugged. It'll refresh once the fight starts. Okay, I think we're in a good position. I'd be surprised if we lose this next fight, but let's fight against Infused and see what is going on. Alright, Restorative Fire Claw. Oh, we've got some Mega Burn stuff. He does have a freeze at start of fight due to Lash Out and Paralytic Potion, but we do a lot of damage. A lot of damage really fast. And a lot of that damage was from Cannonade there. That wasn't even with a crit. So let's click the recap there. 640 damage, really very quickly. A lot of that's because Katana's coming out super fast, and we've got all these fast attacking small items. The scaling on Shark Claws is actually something that is starting to become less important because Cannonade is doing most of our damage. So it's good for me to think about that. I didn't call this out before, but because I was so well positioned for this fight, I actually intentionally did not sell my candy bars in the hopes that I can actually gain some economy out of them. All right. And they have not as big of an impact, right? Because it's only 50 health. Mandala is not great for us. Relax is very much weak, so we really have to go to Mattel here. Interesting. I don't think that this is better. Arbalist is interesting. It's like you could maybe you could float Arbalist and put like a combo dive weights sort of playstyle in, where you just kind of insta-give them with Arbalist. Trying to take my time here and think this through. Whether these are actually worth doing. This is all pretty much trash that I'm just holding on to see if I can find an opportunistic time to sell it. I do know that this Arbalist is going to scale up nicely, but I already have a nice payoff for my weapons from Cannonade. And so why would I have both of those things? Really, Cannonade wants you to fire quickly, and this Arbalist is saying, hold up, let's trigger a bunch of haste, let's fire slowly. So I'm going to skip these. And I don't think any of these are going to make me change my mind about what I am up to. Cool. Onward. Burn skills, crit skills, and gold tier skills. I think a crit skill could be really good for us. One of the main things we're missing on our board right now is a way to scale and gain crit. So critting is going to be really important for us. 8% crit across the board is nothing to scoff at, and it means that it doesn't cost me $6. I would love to see inexorable though. So the question is, do I risk it for a better payoff? Inexorable would be far superior to Keen Eye. Far superior. Especially because we're at the start of the day. I do have a fair amount of money sitting around. I think that I will take the risk here. Keen Eye's fine. Nothing exciting. Let's see if we can do a little better. We ended up not doing much better. Stunning Strike's not really good, but Left Eye is pretty good. And Flanking Criticals is pretty good. I could do something like this. And then I would get 15% crit on these, or I could just put 16 crit on Cannonade, which also feels pretty good. I think we'll do that. I think we'll take Left Eye here and just get some crit on Cannonade, because this is just more impactful in general than getting it across the board. And I've still got that 1 cooldown reduction here on Shark Claws. Loving to see Pearl's Dig Site, but hating to have to choose between that and Colt, because I would really like to go to Colt. I really do have a good build for like a good setup for ammo items here. And I'm actually heavily considering going to Colt here, just because I know if I get like a silver or gold repeater, that I'm going to be triggering so much attacks from all this from all this ammo usage, that a repeater would trigger Cannonade a lot. And it would be super fast. I think I am going to click Colt. I think on average, this is more beneficial to our build. It is obviously not more beneficial in the long term, but it is more beneficial to our build. Alright, getting a throwing knives upgrade is great. Happy to see that. Love seeing a nesting doll here, but it doesn't really work with what we currently have, so I think I'm okay to skip it. And I have enough money that I can see there's some specific like gold and silver ammo items that would be really powerful for me. How much would I be willing to sell? Right now I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11, and I'd be willing to sell one of these 2 medium items for the right item. So I've got 15, which is not enough to buy a gold item. And really I only have 11, which is not enough to buy much. So I think we will take our throwing knives upgrade and we'll skedaddle. But we did get stronger, and that is important. Alright. Chili Charles, Joyful Jack, or Viper Tyrant. None of these have anything we really care about, so we'll go to Chili Charles. We'll get the maximum experience. And Chili Charles literally deals no damage. He's just kind of tough to kill and is really good against like single weapon or single item synergies. So we're in a great spot against this. Alright, already getting some crits off of our cannonade here. Getting an obsidian on dive weights would be kind of interesting. Wow, I'm actually pretty impressed by the amount of healing he's able to do. But I do think we're slowly overcoming it. This scaling we have on Shark Claws ends up being quite strong. And he does have some crazy high crits, which is part of the reason that he has managed to stay alive this long. Because he's getting 3 crit every time he freezes. I was impressed at how long Chili Charles lasted there. Not a bad item. Not a bad item at all. Perfectly happy with that. So here we are with these chocolate bars. $8 and plenty of stuff that I feel comfortable selling. I think we make the straightforward choice and take a look at some items. No need to get complicated. So we have the option to kind of switch out of Shark Claws and just let Cannonade kind of do all of our damage. The tricky thing about going that route is we needed that scaling to stay in the fight. We didn't have enough ammo to really finish out the fight last time. So I do think you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, and you're gone. I do want this. 15% crit could really make a difference, and it might end up on our board. Grape Shot has a lot of staying power as well. Feel pretty happy about that. Less happy about bolas here. I think we'll skip that for now, but I am going to reroll, which was kind of a wild choice now that I've thought more than 1 second about it. Double barrel is very interesting. Sure, we do have 2 ammo, but that's only 4 shots, which means we are going to run out of ammo very quickly. It's a lot of damage up front, but it's hard to say that it's worth putting on the field. Very tough. I want to get away from this sort of Shark Claws katana, but I also recognize that I'm limited in a really negative way by the amount of ammo that I have on these items. You know, I could take double barrel here. Actually, I mean, I actually don't know if I actually have the money to do that. It would be tough to make that happen. But I'd probably have to sell katana and Shark Claws. But I do see the value in just totally rushing them down. I don't think I have the payoffs for that. I think we're gonna skip. We did a lot of good thinking there, but ultimately I think I'm better off with what I currently have. No Barcoons, unfortunately. Here, I could click Aila. Aila's definitely not bad. I do not have a lot of money, so I'm just going to take an aquatic item for free. That's a good one. Happy to sell that. Goodbye. And again, this 10 health is really, this 50 health is probably not going to make the difference, but 5 gold might actually matter. We are ahead on wins from Clampa here. Let's see if we can pull out the win right now. And this is the end of day 7, yeah. And I think we are pretty well positioned to... Oh, he's got tempering. He's got some good haste. He's got some pretty good shielding. We'll have to see if our ability to scale actually ends up being enough, and it is. The crit that we have on Cannonade there really comes in clutch. And he never got his torpedo off, and he was not able to shield enough to actually defend against us. He has pretty low crit overall, which is nice. Take a look at this. 1,300 from Cannonade. I think we're doing a good job of really utilizing that. You know, we're only getting 1 attack on these slow items, but, you know, throwing knives here went 4 times because we got 2 crits on Cannonade. So these are actually working out quite nicely. All right, feel pretty happy about that. Loot, ammo, or silver tier item. So at this point, there are some ammo items that would be literally nuts for us. There are some loot items that would be really strong, but you know, getting a repeater here is super interesting. We didn't get the repeater, but that's why I clicked that ammo item, because I'm looking for very specific things. And this is the perfect time to get Barcoon, because we really don't want Regen, we don't want Mandala, and we have all these tiny items that I'm happy to sell. So, all of these are gone. Goodbye. I don't know if we'll ever put Icicle on the board. Even if we get a Cannonade, we can't afford it. Yeah, we could. 4, so we'd go down to 13. And then we could sell 13 to 26. So if we get a Cannonade on a refresh here, we could field it. I don't think I want to buy this Cove. And this wanted poster is a little too expensive. Now that they've changed it to where it's only 1 experience, really what's more important for me is that 16 gold goes to winning the next fight, not to the potential EXP gain in the long term. So I'm going to click a reroll here. Don't want any of that. And I am going to keep that Icicle that I have, you know, just in case this ends up mattering. Spare change, chocolate bars, or Aila. We have enough money, so let's click Aila. Don't want any of these. Shoe blade, musket. Zoarcid is interesting if we had some burn that we were doing. Like, let's say we get the ammo thing that burns as well. Certainly a interesting option. Not bad. Not bad at all. But it's not an immediate impact. So I think I will skip it. The thing that is nice, though, is if, like, eventually if I can field a bunch of small items, that's even better for Cannonade. We'll skip it for now. Tough choice. Very tough choice. Alright, Infernal Frigate has some ammo-centric stuff, as well as some burn-centric stuff, which could be good. Bouncertron doesn't have anything we need, but has more experience. I know that I need 6 experience. I'm going to get 3 from the day, which means I need to get 3 to guarantee my level up. So as much as I think I'd prefer to go to Infernal Frigate, we're going to go to Bouncertron. And Sharpened Steel would actually be quite nice. I think you can technically roll a katana now. I'm not sure about that. I could be wrong about that. But we are doing a lot of damage. Love to see that. Yeah, sharpened steel. Super happy if we get that. This is actually quite good if I can field it. So pretty happy with that. Interesting that that put itself in the middle of my board. Okay, so now we're set to get our level 10 enchantment before day 8. That is a critical outcome that you should be thinking about in all of your games. Getting level 10 by day 8, end of day 8, is a very powerful and important target to be hitting. Now, I could take a temporary boost here and just add 25 damage across the board. Very strong move for me. Really sets me up to be even more successful. But with $15 and Mattel on the board, I do think it's worth clicking here. It's hard to justify not clicking Mattel there. Ramrod's fine, but certainly not inspiring. It is probably good enough for me to float, though. Probably good. Oh, I have this pet rock. So if I put pet rock out and then this... Now, at that point, dive weights becomes quite a bit weaker because it's 8 seconds, but then I can just put grape shot out. Oh man, is this worth it? I need to do like this, because then this gets the extra damage. Ooh, I think that's better. Yeah, I think that's better. Pretty cool. And we get 15% extra crit on everything. Do I want a Ramrod? Sure. Do I want a Ramrod? The idea here is that it is good with things like throwing knives and items like a repeater, or if you can get to like a critical mass of crit chance. The 20% crit here matters a lot. I think I'll pass. It was a tough choice though. And I don't want any of these. Onward. Alright. We don't have any bronze items we would want to upgrade. We don't want any small non-weapon items. There's a chance here that we get some aquatic items we want, so we'll take a look, but we won't reroll. Interesting here to see figurehead. That conceivably could be good, but I don't think it's exactly what we're looking for. But instead of fielding grape shot here, I could field this narwhal, which will actually reduce dive weights by 1 second. The thing I didn't think about, though, is that that removes the pet rock synergy there, which is far superior. So that was a mistake. Thought of it a little too late. But not worth re-rolling here. We'll move on. And let's see what we get. A poison effect on Cannonade would be extremely strong. I don't think that it's worth it to fight that. And I don't think it's worth it to try to get better. That's good enough. That just extends the effectiveness of Cannonade here. Getting that poison out will make a big difference in our fights. Alright, and we have made it to level 10. We've got a full board of red text. We are certainly not super overpowered, but I think I'm doing a good job showing you what it means to stay ahead of the curve on Vanessa. And this kind of stuff will perform very well against your average Mak player. Rust is doing really good against this one weapon build, and let's see if he can keep up with our damage now that we actually get to start using items. It looks like he can. He's very strong. Yeah, that infinite crit there is really tough to deal with. That's a good showing of why one weapon builds are so strong, and an unfortunate situation. And he has some scaling with streamlined weapon here. Good damage. Yeah, hard to beat something like that. 1.6 second, 100% crit chance. 320 damage every 1.6 seconds. You got the win, Adrian. Nice job. Your one weapon build is online. Alright, we've got 16 bucks in the bank. We don't want regen. Chocolate bars wouldn't be bad, but let's see an item. Perfect. Now, these are some really good items for us. We definitely are taking throwing knives, no matter what. And I'd really like to take swashbuckle as well. So, swashbuckle first. And now, this can probably come out. I probably want to do something like this. right? Where this has got 40% crit. And then this is getting the extra damage. That seems pretty strong to me. Now this is at 66% crit. And every time we get a crit, we're going to charge this super fast. I think that feels pretty good. And now this is gone and this is gone. And we'll take the upgraded throwing knives. I feel pretty good about that. All right. So we are low on the money. We don't want mandala, so we'll just take some free econ. Sure. All right. We get one shot by Pharaoh's Khan. We do have the rust and the ambush here, which is quite good. But the weapons platform is particularly good when you have a large weapon that you're using, because some of its skills are very strong. Especially when you use a large item, haste 2 small items for 2 seconds. And I'd love Keen Eye here. So I feel pretty comfortable with the choice we made. Wow, this character is a lot stronger than they used to be. Interesting that I don't know how much better that was. Like, we didn't trigger our cannonade nearly as much, even though we did have the swashbuckle out. Oh, Uzi's great for us. Really strong. I'm actually not sure if this is worth it. But here we've got Mattel, Relax, and Monster Ranch. And Monster Ranch is incredibly good. So we'll click that. Ah, not exactly what we wanted. Nothing here is particularly strong for us. And it really could have been. But Gunpowder's pretty good. Getting extra crit on throwing knives is particularly strong. So we'll take that. And now I think we really still need to lean in further on our crit. So we'll do that. None of these are really very inspiring. So let's reroll. We have just enough to do so. Keen Eye, just a flat 16% crit is quite good. Or a targeted 25% crit on adjacent items. I could see that being particularly strong as well. Maybe something like this, actually. Getting that extra crit on the grenade. And getting that extra crit on pulse rifle. Although just the 16% flat across the board is really hard to say no to. I think we'll do that. I think we'll keep it simple. Flat 16. Let's make it happen. And let's scoot this guy over again. Yeah. That way he's got the 57% crit. Alright. We still have very little money. Although I am, after thinking Swashbuckle was going to be a little better than it is, we are now at a position where I would be willing to sell pretty much everything I have in my board. Maybe not the dive weights. So let's click Aerodrome and see what we get. I don't want that. So let's sell the Seashell. This is not bad, but I won't be able to afford any large item that I would get. So I'll sell one more item here. And is it the Swashbuckle? Oof. Even Icicle can be quite strong, like with a haste enchant. It really doesn't synergize with what we're doing with Cannonade, though. Alright, Icicle's gone. One more. And one more. Alright, oh, well, I guess I should click there no matter what. So interesting that it even gives me the option just to leave. Alright, we have a pretty tough-looking Dooley here. He's 2 wins ahead of us. Let's see if we can put up a good fight here. I think the Uzi pickup that we got is actually quite strong. It's going to significantly improve the amount of times we trigger our Cannonade. And this guy's got a Fiery Bulldozer and DJ Robot. He's got some immediate haste triggers. But we are firing pretty quickly. That looked pretty good there for just a second. But a lot of slows coming out, a lot of freezes coming out. 26 health. Oh my goodness. What a close fight. Wow, we put up a really good fight there. Against a player who had not lost very much. Alright, so happy to take a random location. I can't remember what Pet Rock's crit effect does. Let me check that real quick. Crit. Yeah, it has double crit chance. Nice. So that's definitely what we want to do. Pet Rock, double the crit chance from its passive here. So it's going to give us 30 crit. Yeah, very nice. And so now we've got a lot of crit going on, which feels really, really nice. Don't want 11 regen, don't want to transform something. I'll click this, but I don't have a lot of money to spend. Dive weights here might be good. That's a lot of haste all of a sudden. But importantly, it is not a weapon. And that's kind of the main thing I'm looking for, is to just really lean into triggering a lot of weapons at once and kicking off Cannonade to really bring the damage home. So I think we have to skip. We can go to Curio here. There's quite a few things we could get that would be good. Sure, crit chance, extra damage. You know, that's good enough, right? Extra damage, throw a crit chance on there. Now we're up to 77. Not worth re-rolling. And we'll skedaddle. We got stronger. We didn't have to spend much to do it. Perfectly happy going to Awaken District. Another one that has really good synergy if a large weapon is one of your main focuses. Here we've got Trickle Down Economics. When you lose a large weapon, haste another item for 4 seconds. So that would be the best one. And then we could get anything else, you know, that would work. Getting this down to 6.6 seconds would be a very big deal as well. Alright, and it looks like we'll be able to take him out with poison here. Nice. Trickle down economics would be great. Really, really good. Try to recap here. Most of our damage is coming from Cannonade. All of this is just set up to do more with Cannonade. And we did not get it. But, you know, if we get something that's like shielded, you know, it'll end up mattering. Alright, I am low on money, and so a gold item on average tends to be pretty good. But a cooldown reduction on Cannonade would be incredibly strong, so we're going to click loot, just because it could be so powerful. That turns out not to be what I wanted. Alas, what can you do? Kev's doesn't really have something we're looking for. We don't really want a free slow item. Let's go to Shrouded Figure and spend 10 on experience. Alright, Small Friend, Gumballs, or Aila. We have a little bit of money, so I could conceivably get a grenade upgrade or maybe a deadly pet rock upgrade. So I think it's worth it to go here. And we do see the Cannonade, but I don't think I can afford it. I've only got $16, and it's not worth selling more for that. So I'll just oh, yep, I will refresh here. There's still a lot of good things I could get. Hate to see that you can't get that, but what can you do? And you know, you could make the case that it's one of those things where like spending 10 on experience is really strong. So I don't really feel too bad about that. But we get to fight our late game Mak here. Let's see if the position we've put ourselves in is ready to overcome Mak even in the late game. I think we're relatively well positioned here. I think that the average Mak we might do quite well against. But let's see what he's got. He's got a Calcinator that's quite... Calcinator and Retort with a lot of regen. So we're going to die pretty quick once we start going. But we should be able to do a lot of damage here. The question is it going to be enough? Oh, it is not enough. Yeah, once that Sunlight Spear hit us, it was just far too much damage. And the first time you fall below half health, you gain 1 times your regen. And you shield, equal to 3 times the poison on your opponent. Wow. He's got a very strong build going. 400. So basically, if this Sunlight Spear goes off, most people are dead. And the region he's getting is because he gets 85 here, right? And then we get into half, and it doubles. And that just makes his Sunlight Spear even stronger. And then I die in 1 second because of one hit from Sunlight Spear. And he was getting a lot of haste from Turbo Weatherglass here. All right. Well played. He got the win. Well, unfortunately, as much as I think I set myself up for a pretty good showing there, we didn't actually make it past. And I think we ran into a little bit of a gauntlet there. We fought that dually and we lost by 26 health. There was a couple options where we could have got a little bit more lucky, and that would have maybe set our run up a little bit better. But I do think I put forward a good build. This could have definitely gone 7, 8, 9 wins with a little bit more luck against the opponents I was playing against. So again, unfortunate that I am not necessarily putting up the numbers. But that being said, I do think this is an effective way to play. I think that, you know, against an average opponent, we would actually do very well with a build like this. And so hopefully you can try something like this in your runs, get a little luckier on your opponents, and snag some wins. This is a very strong build right now on Vanessa, even though what you see here wasn't necessarily the best showing. If you have any questions, please throw them down in the comments. Please include a timestamp of when you are talking about in the video, just so that I can reference that. And hopefully you found this useful, even though we didn't put up significant dubs. I'll see you in the next one.